I'm late to the party, again, but that shouldn't be a surprise because I am always late to the party. Plus I have my chamomile tea set just out of sight over there, so I think I'm set. Let's see what this moron has to say.
This week's top story. If you see a Nazi, punch a Nazi.
You're right, this shouldn't be news. It should be obvious that punching people is a bad thing to do.
The internet has been abuzz the past few weeks about this video of famed white supremacist douchebag Richard Spencer getting punched and then proceeding to cry like a baby-ass wimp boy while being interviewed about his idiotic cartoon frog pen.
Because crying when you're hurt is somehow wrong? So it's somehow worthy of ridicule if you're expressing a human emotion? Let me guess, especially if you're a man?
It's Pepe's become kind of a symbol.
Look, I don't like Richard Spencer, but I think it's kind of weird how the qualifier for if you're racist or not, like the thing he was asked, is do you like black people or do you like minority? As if you're supposed to say yes, like you don't judge them by their personality and just judge them by their skin color. Like, yes, I like black people more than anything else or something. I don't see how that would prove that you're not racist. It's like they're just expecting you to say no and then that's it, that's all. Like they're just expecting you to admit that you hate them so that they can continue on doing the I am right dance.
While many cheered and many more remixed the video to hits from yesterday and today, some people took it upon themselves to write think piece after think piece about the ethics of Nazi punching.
Again, are we really at the point where we have to justify why not being violent to someone is the right thing to do? The minute that expressing our political ideas becomes something that you have the right to be violent about is the minute that we all say goodbye to humanity.
Look, I know that an intellectual's hierarchy of needs peaks at moral superiority, but give it a rest.
Isn't it top priority for intellectuals to satisfy their curiosity? I mean, that's kind of why they're becoming intellectuals. It's kind of hard to read through all of the academic papers and studies and books if you're not very interested in them. I mean, sure, some people who consider themselves academic intellectuals are very uppity and nosy. Christy Winters! But I just find it odd that every single time the insert name here group that's authoritarian and scary that everyone doesn't like starts to take over or starts to make themselves more known, the thing that they always talk about is how silly academics are and how everything that is they consider a joke is somehow the intellectuals' fault, and then that's them. Them being intellectuals alone is dumb enough, apparently. Why is that always the case? And don't you always notice that intellectuals are always the ones who have to flee first? Like art and intellectuals are always the first thing to go when it's the sign of the apocalypse.
Punching a Nazi is the ethical choice, because people only become Nazis when they didn't get that urge punched out of them in childhood.
No, I think you're the one who needs to think piece after think piece to justify what you just said. I'm guessing you'd be okay with hitting children if the victim was a boy. Because even at a young age, people think that boys are at fault for things that happen to people that they don't even know. Because people who are born this particular way are at fault for everything, even if they don't even know the people that it's affecting, and they should apologize for it and we have to get rid of them, right? Isn't that something that the Nazis thought?
Kind of a symbol. My boy.
I know it's fun to do the mental gymnastics of deciding whether or not Plato or Socrates or Jaden Smith or whoever else in your Philosophy 101 text would agree with your logical conclusion that punching Nazis is bad because violence is not the answer, but no one cares.
I don't think I'm the one who needs mental gymnastics. I mean, look at both of us. I'm the one who's trying to tell you to stop being violent and you're the one who's waving your fists around. I think the only reason you're doing it is because you're scared, honestly. I mean, think about it. If you were right and you had an answer for it, you would just be talking about it. You would have no problem. But the only way to get your ideas across is to brainwash children and then punch people who try to stop you.
You are under no obligation to hear a Nazi out.
So you're saying that we have an obligation to punch people? Because you didn't just say you can, you said that you must do it.
But Akila, what if they aren't actually Nazis?
You'll have to work to justify it extra hard so you can sleep at night?
Anyone who thinks Hitler had mostly good ideas and argues that there was any silver lining to the tragic, unimaginable horrors done unto Jews during the Holocaust can catch these hands.
I can use my hands to do so many other things that would work so much better. I mean, I could write, because then I would only have ink stains instead of blood on them. And ink stains wash off a lot easier, don't they?
Half the reason the Holocaust went unchecked for as long as it did was because of this lamentable desire for social loafing, where they'd rather be polite or peaceful to monsters instead of shutting them down forcefully.
Well, weren't they? I mean, to the Nazis, the concentration camps and the death camps were the way of shutting down the monsters, in the same way that you're saying it. Because, as you say, being peaceful didn't work, right?
It's not like every person in Germany in the early 1940s was a Nazi. It's just that the good people decided it wasn't worth the trouble to fight back against the fascist, racist, anti-Semitism as it gained traction in their country.
Stanley Milgram in the 1960s conducted a study about obedience and authority figures and that kind of thing. Because as the Nazis were being put on trial and all of that sort of stuff was happening after the Holocaust, people were looking at them and thinking, how could someone do this to someone else? They must be sick in the head, all of them. Because that is the only way that we can ever have an answer for why someone would do something so terrible. It must be that, right? And then people were starting to think, couldn't ordinary people just do this because it was an authority figure telling them to? Couldn't we all be monsters if we were pushed to the limit? And one of the reasons that they were thinking that is because a lot of the soldiers would say, I was just following orders. And Stanley Milgram wanted to test if that was true. So he conducted a study where there was a teacher, and then there was one of their students, and the student was away in a little boxed-off room in the corner. And in the room with the teacher was someone who looked very official who was running the study. And the teacher was told that the study was to see that if you punish students with an electric shock, would they actually perform better in their studies. Now the student in the box actually wasn't a real student that was really getting shocked, it was an actor. And since you couldn't see the actor would just make noises. The actor would just go, hey look, I'm hurt, or make a noise or something like that. And the basic premise of the study basically involved the teacher saying, okay, so here's a question, there's A, B, C, or D, which one is it? And then the student would press a button, and then if the student got the answer wrong, then the teacher would have to shock them. And the more they got wrong, the more the teacher would have to amp up the voltage and shock them even more. The study proved that the more official someone looks, the more they look like they know what they're doing and that they're in charge and they have power over you in society, like someone with a lab coat, someone who's an officer, and the more you can't see or hear the person who you're hurting. Ordinary people actually shocked the kid until the kid was dead. Because of the reassurance from the authority figure that was higher up than them, saying, it's okay, keep going, you're supposed to keep going, they ended up amping up the voltage, despite what they thought and despite the fact that they didn't want to hurt the kid, until the kid just died. If it was an actual person who was being shocked in there, then the kid would have died. That's how far up on the voltage they kept going. See, the thing is, we keep telling ourselves, if I was in that place, I wouldn't be doing this. I would be one of the good ones, I would stand up against it. But let's be real. Most of us are pretty sheltered and we've never been in a place like that. And we would probably do something. We would probably follow orders. Because we're all human and we're all bowing under the pressure. And I just think it's really telling how self-satisfied you are, how higher up you think you are than everyone else. Because you have no idea about anything in history. I'm being honest with you. You have no idea what it's like to be under the pressure. And I don't either, but at least I'm making the effort to learn about it. You think that you wouldn't be one of the teachers who kept pressing the button until the kid was dead? You think that? But I don't think so. I mean, the fact that you're thinking that good people just didn't do anything, it shows how much you don't know. And for someone who doesn't know anything to suddenly become violent and accuse everyone else of not knowing, that is pretty dangerous, and I feel sorry for you.
Well, guess what? It's not 1940 anymore. We won't sit back quietly while you Heil Hitler with your pathetic Nazi youth haircut.
Is this your weird version of the 14 words?
And be warned that if you are feeling froggy enough to spout this hate in public, you better be ready to jump.
I'm so mature, I'm so much of an adult that I get triggered by cartoon frogs.
I'm Akila Hughes, and this shouldn't be news.
And even though she's dead, she still talks without a head. Good day.